Okay, so what I like to do is I take my bowl and then I'm going to add the salmon to the bowl. I've already opened it and drained out the extra juice. If you have a little bit of juice left in it, that's fine. That juice just helps to keep it moist, but I did drain off most of the juice. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put it in here. But one thing too is that when you typically get salmon like this, it already still has the bones in it. So we wanna make sure that we get the bones out. So I try to turn it in upside down just to make sure it stays whole so that it's easier for me to peel back, because normally the bones are in one area. So I'm gonna turn it upside down in our bowl. If you can see, got a nice opening and poured it in there. And then I'm just gonna start kind of peeling it back, just so that I can expose those bones. And if you look, I actually hit it dead on today. So I got the bones like right there, and we want to go ahead and get those out of there. So nobody wants to crunch on bones, right? So we'll take them out and sit them on our little cutting board. And so I've gotten those bones out. And I always still go through and check just to make sure that they're not any just in other areas. But most of the time, once you open it and you dump it all in, if you go to like one area, then you can almost see the divide in it. Where you see that divide, you just want to pull it, and then you can kind of expose all the bones at once. But I still like go through it, and as I'm going through it, I'm breaking it up. Like this one has a little piece of bone I'm going to get. I'm just gonna break it all up. And the fun part is when I first started making this, I would always add salt to it, or sometimes I'll add Old Bay to it. And sometimes it'll turn a little bit salty. And I'm like, why is it so salty? And we know that anything that comes from the sea, you know, the ocean is salty anyway. So it's gonna have a nice natural high salt content to it anyway. So we don't want to add too much salt to it. And I always make sure that I do look for, if you notice it says wild caught right here, it says wild caught. And I just prefer wild caught. Anytime I buy any fresh seafood or anything like that, I look for wild caught. I try not to get farm raised. It's just a personal preference. You know, when it's wild, you know it's actually been in the wild. When it's farm raised, you don't necessarily know what they're giving to it. So I typically look for a wild caught. So we have this nice and crumbled up. And then what I do is I'm going to crack one egg in it. And like I said, that's going to be a part of our binder. So we'll crack one egg in it. And we're just going to crack the egg right into the bowl. So we got our egg cracked in it. Set that to the side. And then I'm going to take my gloves off because of course they're a little bit messy. And I'm going to do the breadcrumbs today just because they're easier. They sell the panko breadcrumbs in the store, or you can do regular breadcrumbs. You can do seasoned, unseasoned. Like I said, you can do the crackers. The crackers if you don't have any breadcrumbs on hand, or you can just do flour. And it only takes a little bit because you just want to hold it together. You don't want it to get so tight and dry, so you just want to add a little bit of liquid to it. I mean, a little bit of binder to it so that it's not too stiff. And so I am, for measurement's sake, I will do a, let's see what we'll do. So this is like a tablespoon, so I'll do a tablespoon. I might do 2 tablespoons. So 1. And that's 2. And that's all the binder that I will do. I don't like it too stiff. I want to keep it pretty moist. Just add a little bit of binder to it. And then I'll take a fork here and I'll just kind of start to blend it all together. And I also like mine still kind of chunky, but it's up to you. If you want to blend it to where it's really, really smooth, you can do that as well. But I like to keep it a little bit chunky. It's looking pretty good with that egg in it. And I am still going to give it a good mix with my hand as well too, just to kind of top it off. So if you see, we've mixed it up pretty good. I'm going to set that to the side and get some more gloves. And once I get my gloves on, I'm going to add the green onion. And I have to chop that up. I have my green onion here, and I've added some, like I said, I've already put the olive oil in the pan, so the oil should be getting hot. And I'm just gonna go ahead and chop this. And we really don't want a lot of green onion. It's just to give it a little flavor. I know y'all said that's not a, she said not a lot, but that looks like a lot. It's actually not a whole lot. So we kind of chopped up our green onion, and I just kind of give it a little fine mix, a little bit. Another thing with green onion too, you don't necessarily have to chop it. If you have kitchen shears, which we know like the kitchen shears, but they're kitchen scissors basically, and they're used to kind of cut open hard stuff that's, you know, hard to get to in the kitchen. You can use that as well and just clip your green onion, and so you won't have to chop it. So we got our bowl here. We're gonna add our green onion to it. And I'm going to give it another mix. Oh, we see, I got a little shell in there. Go ahead and get that out. So go ahead and give it a good mix. And like I said, because of the natural salt content, and you want to kind of keep low sodium, you don't have to add salt to this. If you do want to add additional salt, I would just add a pinch. I would not add a lot of salt to it, because like I said, it already has 300 milligrams of sodium per 1/3 cup, and this is almost 2 cups. So when you look at sodium, if something says, well, we have 300 milligrams per serving, and if the can has 4 servings, then you have to do 300 times 4. So that will give you 1,200 milligrams of sodium. So that's another way to kind of look at it. Look at it per the sodium content, and then also look at it per serving, because that's what you're going to actually get the amount. But we know you probably won't eat the whole can. You'll be sharing. But just in case you do, you just kind of, like I said, want to match the salt content. And another trick that I always tell people, if you cook it and it doesn't have enough salt for you, what you can do at the end once it's done is just take a pinch of salt, like a really little pinch, and sprinkle it on there, and it will give you the illusion that it has more sodium in it than it does for your palate. So I've mixed it. And then what I like to do is get in there, make sure I have my gloves, and give it a nice little mix. Just kind of get the egg and the breadcrumb and the onions, everything mixed in really well. And if you look, everything's mixed pretty good. And then what I start to do is make patties out of them. So you'll take a handful, and out of a can, you should get anywhere from about 4 to 5, depending on what size you want to make them. And I always like to go about medium size. And if you see, got a nice patty here. And we're just going to start to add those to the fryer, or to our pan. Looks like I might get about 4 out of this. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Mixing. And the good thing about it is that they don't have to be perfect patties. You just want to blend them together. And that's it. They don't have to be the perfect size. Or, you know, you want to get them as uniform as possible because you want them to cook evenly, but they don't have to be like perfect patties. I think salmon croquettes should be a little bit rustic anyway. So we'll get those in our pan. Yeah, it looks like I'll get 5 out of here. And the good thing about it is this is something that you can have for breakfast. You can also have it for lunch. So what you can do is once you make your patties, they heat really nicely. You can actually make salmon burgers. So this could be a salmon burger. You can actually take your salmon patty, you can put it on bun, a little bit of lettuce, tomato, tartar sauce, mayo, anything like that, and then you now have a lunch sandwich. And we're gonna mix up our last patty. And I try to make sure I get everything out the bowl. I get that from my mom. She's like, make sure you don't leave anything behind. So this one will be a little bit smaller, but that's fine. So we have all our patties in a bowl, and I'm going to go ahead and then this bowl now becomes my trash bowl. So everything that I had, I'll put in here so that it's easy for me to clean up. So I put my glove on. You see that salmon had a nice bone in it. And then we're going to set that aside, and then what I will do is pan over so that you all can actually see our patties cooking. So our salmon croquettes are done. We cooked them in about 10 minutes, so about 5 minutes on one side, 5 minutes on the other side. And if you want to cook them a little bit longer, you can put them in the oven and let them go another 5 to 10 minutes, totally up to you. But if you also look in our pan, we don't have a lot of oil left in the pan because we only did about 2 tablespoons of olive oil so that we wouldn't have a lot of grease left over. And if you see, they are nice and golden brown. And we're going to pair them with some eggs because it's for breakfast. But like I said before, you can also use the salmon burgers. So you can make them ahead of time. You can add them to your bun, whole wheat toast, a little bit of lettuce, tomato, tartar sauce, mayo, like your favorite condiment. And now you have a nice lean salmon burger with a lot of omega-3s and things in it. So it's a really good option. Just wanted you all to see how nice they actually came out. And we didn't add any salt to them. So we're going to add some eggs to go with our croquette breakfast. And we just have a couple of eggs that we tossed, scrambled. I didn't say tossed, but a couple of eggs that we scrambled. We put a little bit of olive oil in the pan. Now, one trick I like to do with my eggs, I put the olive oil in the pan, I let the pan get hot, and then I add the eggs like directly to the oil, so it helps with the sticking. If you see how they're moving really well in the pan, and we're just going to scramble them. Now, you can scramble your eggs at your desire. I personally like hard scrambled eggs, so what I do is I'll get them nice and started, and then I'll kind of cut the heat off so that they're not too hard. But we're going to actually add these with our croquettes, which are almost done. So we're going to go ahead and cut this off and cut our pan off with our eggs in it. As you can see, we have our nice breakfast. We have our scrambled eggs. Like I said, I prefer my eggs hard, so it's up to you if you want to take them a little bit lighter. And we have our salmon patties that can also be a nice is our finished breakfast. Nice, light, and heart healthy. You can also use egg whites. You don't have to do the yolk of the egg. You can do egg whites as well. So thank you all for tuning in.